phones during the meeting and engage in conversations outside the chambers, and I've turned mine off. And Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bilbray.
Here.
Councilmember Patton.
Here.
Councilmember Bragg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Spriggs.
Here.
Mayor Dedina.
Here. And this evening, it's our pleasure to have the Pledge of Allegiance carried out by Desiree Galligam, a sixth grade student at Sunny Slope School. Her teacher said Desiree is an outstanding student. She's one of my top students, both in academics and citizenship. She works hard in all subject areas, and she follows school rules inside and outside the classroom. And she loves to help others as well. She is so responsible that she has not missed one homework assignment all year. Very good. And I'm confident that she will leave Sunny Slope and succeed as an awesome person in whatever career field she chooses. So please rise and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Yes. Yep.
So that's where I went to school. I went there from first grade all the way to sixth grade. Great school. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. I was trying to remember who I knew that went to Sunny Slope, and I know we've talked about that before, so that's great. That's awesome. And if anybody out in the audience has an organization, especially with kids, that you think would be great, that would love to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please let us know. We just met with Army recruiters the other day, and they've got the young students that are going to be joining the Army, and we've invited them to come give the Pledge of Allegiance. So this doesn't have to be students. We've had all different types of groups. So anyway, it's a really great to have the community here. And then agenda changes. Any agenda changes?
No, Mayor, there's going to be some clarification to the consent items when we get there.
Okay, great. And then this is the time where we do the announcements on assignments and committees. And Mr. Bilbray, would you like to have any announcements? Mr. Patton?
Just briefly, I attended the Sea Level Rise workshop and learned a lot from it. I think there's a lot more to learn. And I'm glad our city's in the forefront, and I'm sure others will talk about that. As well as I attended the brown breaking at 9th and Palm. If you've driven by there lately, you see a lot of dirt moving, which is wonderful. This Saturday, Women's Club, they're having a big luncheon. And also the Chamber and South County EDC at 9 p.m. Saturday evening, they're hosting a grunion run. Now, something has to happen. The grunion have to run. So it's 9 o'clock at Carnation. And if you want to go, bring a flashlight and have some fun.
You know, they've already run.
I'm sorry.
They've already run once.
Oh, they have? Okay. Oh, good. Councilmember Bragg?
Thank you. So Friday, May 20th is Discover Biking to Work Day. Join thousands of people throughout the San Diego region as we go by bike on Bike to Work Day Friday, May 20th. With thousands of miles of bikeways in the region, biking gets you where you need to go. Make biking to work your new normal. You can also take your bike on the bus system and also the trolley system, so give that a try. City Hall is going to be the only pit stop in Imperial Beach. It's going to be open from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Free t-shirt for those that register on iCommuteSD.com and show proof of registration at the pit stop. And we will have snacks, drinks, and goodies for bikers. So, Bike to Work Day, Friday. Don't forget. Be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Spriggs?
Thank you. I just wanted to again mention the great Sea Level Rise workshop that we had last week. I've had the honor of serving on the steering committee that has met quite a few times to prepare that presentation that we had, along with stalwarts from the staff of the city. Jim Nakagawa and Chris Helmer are both making major contributions to the preparation of adaptation plans and strategies for Imperial Beach to address this. so many communities in California have grants like Imperial Beach is working on right now to look at how to adapt over many years to sea level rise. And I hope that at our next session on this, which will be the final report, I think it's our second meeting next month, more or less a month from now, that will get a very good turnout. This is something that affects everybody in every area of Imperial Beach, not just the coast, but the bayfront, the estuary frontage, Seaside Point, etc., and the interior of Imperial Beach, because all of our storm drains and sewer lines, etc., run all over the city, and all these are going to face eventual impacts from this issue as it continues. So we're all in it together, and we all need to be involved in looking at what are the best strategies for our community going forward. So that's really all I have to say on that.
Great, thank you very much. And that is an important issue, and I know we'll be talking about that again this evening. So I wanted to first, I just got the invitation to the Mar Vista Senior Class of 2016 graduation, which will take place on June 2nd. They say not to arrive any later than 4:30 p.m. That'll take place at the Myron Small Football Stadium at 505 Elm Avenue. So that should be great. I was there last year as well with Councilmember Bragg, and it was a very nice, very nice and warm event. So I really enjoyed, looking forward to that again. I wanted to thank everybody that was involved from the city, our sheriffs, and all the volunteers, and then all our residents who came out for the Amgen Tour of California. This is one of the world's largest bicycle races put on by the folks who put on the Tour de France. It was a nationally televised event and a globally webcast event. And I saw the recap that they put out on YouTube. They put out like a 7-minute recap of stage one, and Imperial Beach was featured front and center for the Visit California Sprint. And we looked great. Phil Liggett, one of the greatest, I think the greatest bicycle announcer in the world. He's been doing it for the Tour de France forever. Talked about Imperial Beach, and we saw some of the world's greatest cyclists racing down, sprinting down Seacoast Drive. So it made our city look absolutely great. And school board trustee Chris Brown is here, and she talked about how the CHP, which really plays a very big role in that event, really congratulated, recognized our sheriff's department and all our volunteers in our city. So Lieutenant Taft, thank you so much for, you guys were great. And it just made our city look great, and people were excited, really excited about it. So I had a great time. And I had a good friend from Austin who turns out is a cycling nut, and he just happened to be here. And so he gave IB a rave review on Twitter, which then was retweeted by the Tour of California. So anyway, a lot of good social media and just a lot of good feelings. So I talked to Mayor Faulkner on Monday and thanked him for getting that going in San Diego. He thinks it's going to be another 2 years. Whether or not it comes to IB, I'm not sure, but we'll follow up with the race director. And also our city manager saw Bill Walton at the race reception on Friday, and Bill took full credit for being to IB. So if you don't know, Bill Walton's one of our greatest ever basketball players and an avid cyclist, and does a big fan of Imperial Beach. So anyway, we've got some good champions here. And it's funny, everyone we talked to, including one of the top executives of Amgen, which is a biotech company of 18,000 people, knew all about Imperial Beach. They'd been there. And so anyway, I look forward to having a lot more events like that. So just with that, on June 4th, we'll have the Proving Grounds CrossFit competition at the pier. That's a great event. I brought that down from Encinitas. My son competed in it last year. And so we invited to bring him down to Imperial Beach. That's a really amazingly fun event to watch. Incredible athletes, men and women. So that'll be great. And then on June 11th, we have Global Wellness Day, which will include a safety ride on the bay, as well as all kinds of activities at Pier South. So that'll be the second one. And IB is one of a whole legion of cities around the world that is doing that. So that's really exciting. And then finally, it was great to go to the inauguration or the groundbreaking for 9th and Palm. And, you know, it really hits me the impact those projects have. I saw a kid that I've known for a while who grew up in IB, I think he went to Westview, and he's working on the Elm Street project. You know, those projects create real jobs for working class, blue collar families that really make our economy stronger. So it's not just the end result, it's the fact that those monies are going directly in the hands of blue collar families. And it really makes me feel good to see local kids getting work on that. And I've talked to quite a few construction workers who have told me how proud they were to work on projects in IB. So that's really nice. So I want to thank our city and really the council who's helped get those projects going well before that I was in office. So anyway, that's all I have. And any communications? And then I've got 2 speaker slips. If you want to address the council, remember to put in a speaker slip. We have Fran Atwood. And please remember you have 3 minutes. And just to say your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Fran Atwood. My residence is at 519 Fifth Street. Thank you for listening to my concern, Mayor, council members, and staff. You might be aware of how rumors tend to fly around when you live in a small town. And recently I heard that the properties, Bernardo Shores and El Camino Hotel, were going to be turned into Navy housing and possibly barracks. And I would like to know if this is fact or fiction.
Bernardo Shores is a market rate housing. It is not associated with the Navy. And I apologize. I was writing and missed the second location you had mentioned. Oh, El Camino. There is no application at the current time pending for the El Camino site. So
Oh.
we don't know what will happen there right now.
Thank you.
You bet.
I can't comment on that, but Mr. City Manager, I've learned that 99% of what you see on Facebook half the time and in social media and the rumors generally aren't true. But if anybody has a question about a rumor, feel free to call us immediately, any one of the council members or the city manager. He's got a rumor line just for that purpose. But we really appreciate you coming up, Fran.
It's usually
We really
busy.
appreciate that because yeah, we hear that kind of stuff all the time, especially when people tell me about things that I'm doing that I didn't even know about. So anyway, and then now we have Kim Frink.
Good evening. My name is Kim Frank and I live at 1320 Loudon Lane. And I'm here today representing the Imperial Beach Healthy Grocery Initiative. And we are a group of local residents that are working to create a small community-owned co-op grocery store for Imperial Beach and the surrounding community that would feature organic food that is grown in an environmentally safe way and that supports local farms. And as part of our market and feasibility research, we're currently doing an online community survey to gauge community interest. And we have 450 respondents so far. And with your permission, I'd like to share a flyer with the link to the survey with the council members so that if you haven't had a chance to complete the survey, we'd love to have your input. You can also find the information on our Facebook page, which doesn't have any rumors that I know of. And we know that we'll soon have a grocery outlet in IB that will have some organic food, which is great. But the selection will be limited. So we'd still eventually like to have an additional store here in IB that is focused on sustainable organic food for those residents that are currently driving 12, 15 miles or more to other cities to shop at Sprouts and OB People's Food Co-op, Whole Foods, and Trader Joe's. So I greatly appreciate your time. I hope we'll have your support, and I hope everyone will complete the survey. And I look forward to sharing updates with you in the future on our progress. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Great, no more public comments. We'll go to the presentations of the evening. And the first one, we have 1.1 of the presentation of Community Service Award to Katie Fallon of Katie's Cafe. Katie, should I read this first and then have Katie come up and give you a plaque? Okay. So it is my honor to talk a little bit about Katie, who I've known for a while, and her son Joey and her friends here. I also generally see Joey in the water when the surf's firing, and Katie either in the water or running a surf contest. So it's really an honor to do this. So some water. Having been born and raised in Coronado, Katie always had a deep love for the ocean and the community. Her mother was in charge of concerts in the parks for many years. Over 25 years ago, Katie, a single parent, moved to Imperial Beach with her son Joey to set up home. From the beginning of her residency in Imperial Beach, she was always involved in participating in community events. On May 9th, 2006, 10 years ago this month, Katie opened her cafe. Congratulations. She volunteered daily at Westview Elementary School, became a team mom at Imperial Beach Little League, volunteered on the board of directors of Little League, and was official scorekeeper all through her son's baseball career into high school. At the age of 40, Katie took up, which must have been like a year ago, Katie took up the sport of surfing, which she still continues today, and she absolutely charges, and it is a great presence in the water with your smile and your positive vibe. So it's really great to see you up there. And surfing in Mexico and Central America and Hawaii, I think. So anyway, and it's one of her today it's one of her favorite pastimes. She takes annual trips to Costa Rica and Mexico to indulge her passion. 7 years ago, Katie created a no-cost surf contest for the children of the area. Katie's contest, which my kids participated in from the very beginning. It's an amazing event, and it's now grown to 75 contestants each year, all free of cost. With the donations of wonderful sponsors, the Katie's Endless Summer Surf Classic has become an anticipated event every year for all involved. Her generosity is demonstrated by having provided coffee and gift certificates to the fire department events, Dempsey Holder Surf Contest, Mar Vista High Track events, Powwow by the Sea, just to name a few. So, Katie, if you want to come to the front, we can give you your plaque, and if everybody else wants to come up to honor Katie, we can do a photo. That'd be great.
Test, test. Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming out this afternoon. This was kind of a surprise. I do believe my friend Kim Austin orchestrated this. And about 11 years ago, Kim and I were discussing this at her home one day and going back and forth, going back and forth. I was working in other restaurants, had been for many years, and Kim goes, build it and they will come. Okay. And so we built it, and they came and they came and they came, and it's gotten an extremely busy cafe and a lot of hard work to some fabulous employees that are in the crowd tonight. And all my backbones are here. Support from my son, my sisters, everybody's here tonight. Not to mention big support from the United States Navy, the lifeguards, the sheriffs, the Border Patrol. I couldn't have grown my business without the help of all these, the whole community. And just to make a funny comment, I did not know that If You Build It, They Will Come was from a movie. Until last week, she told me it was Field of Dreams. So I just thought Kim was being really smart, and if I built it, they would come. And they have come. So I have lines out my door. Don't be afraid. And I thank everybody for coming out tonight, my customers, my employees, everybody that's meant so much to me over the years. It's been a good run. I cannot believe it's been 10 years because it just seems like yesterday. You know, we're putting up our first umbrella, and now we've had about 25. So, and the surf contest has been a pleasure to do for the community. Thank you all very much for the honor.
Thank you. I don't know if any other council members would like to say anything or. Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Katie. And I love hanging out at your coffee shop and having coffee. That's where a lot of my meetings take place. So it's great. And just by the way, everyone knows it's your uncle, Katie, was the original first person in the world to do dog surfing, right? That was your uncle in Coronado, right? Oh, never mind. Your good friend, never mind. Okay, all right. Well, it's a good story. At least you have the photos. Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. All right, and now we have another legend and honorary person in our community, Jose Aponte, and we're going to give him a proclamation award, and Councilmember Bragg is going to read that.
Director Aponte, thank you so much for what you've done for our community. I do have a proclamation for you. I'm going to read parts of it. And sitting with you, of course, is June Engel, the branch librarian, and Nancy Stone, president of the Friends of the Library, who have made your job so much more fun and the library such a much better place. Whereas Jose Aponte began his service as San Diego County Library Director on March 28, 2005. And the San Diego County Library has flourished under Director Aponte's direction, being nationally ranked 4th in programs, 8th in service hours, and 18th in circulation. That's nationally, folks. Well, those are big numbers. Director Aponte has successfully advocated for 11 new libraries in 11 years. No small task, sir. including a new library for Imperial Beach that is expected to open in late 2016. Director Aponte encouraged and supported the Friends of Imperial Beach Library in bringing the community together. And Director Aponte worked tirelessly to carry out San Diego County Library's mission to inform, educate, inspire, and entertain. The City of Imperial Beach is committed to recognizing and honoring those individuals who are dedicated to the best ideals of public service, and Jose Aponte is one such worthy citizen. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Councilmember Lori Bragg, along with Mayor Serge Dedina and the rest of our council, commend, congratulate, and thank Jose Aponte for his 11 years of loyal and dedicated service to the County of San Diego, outstanding leadership, and commitment to excellence, and in honor of his retirement, do hereby declare this day to be Jose Aponte Day throughout the city of Imperial Beach. I do have a proclamation. I'd like to invite June and Nancy up to have a photograph with Director Aponte. And I understand that June and Nancy also have some words they would like to add.
All right, on a count of three. One, two.
Thank you. I did 3 years as a deputy city manager, so I expect to see that button here, and press that, and then I can soon know when the red light. 11 years as the county library director, and an enormous sense of pride. Building 11 libraries in every corner of the county is an enormous source of pride for me and for the people that I work with. But Imperial Beach, you folks were relentless. I knew from the gate we would find a way to build our library here. The last week, I've been in Alpine 3-4 times, watching that dream happen. The mosaics, the tiles, the kids discovering the children's books. It's amazing. I have 2 children, right? Which are now 30 and 33 years old. And one of them's on the faculty at UCLA, but he'll always be my boy. We're about to bear here our next of kin. It's coming. The Imperial Beach baby will be born real soon. We couldn't have done it without you, June, Nancy, Serge, the mayor, Jim Janey, the former city manager, Gary, you, city manager Hall. The most important person isn't here. It's my mom, the first librarian. Albany Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library, the value of literature and literacy. The doors were opening for the next generation, that safe place for our seniors. It's coming, and I can hardly wait. Imperial Beach, thank you for the recognition, but this is really about our staff. It's all yours, June. It's all yours.
So am I supposed to press a button here now? I only get 3? Okay, well, you just made my job very easy. I've been out, and so I've been missing all the going away parties, so this is going to be kind of my goodbye to Director Aponte. If I start crying, I start crying. But long story short is I know that everybody associates myself, the Friends of the Library, Director Aponte, with a new library across the street. What you don't know about this man, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my back. Is there so much more. You have no idea what it's like to work for somebody that inspires you. that encourages you to do it, that doesn't laugh at your ideas, might tilt his head sometimes, but he's there for you. And liking your job because you're inspired to do your job makes all the difference in the world. Because if you're not inspired, you're neglected, you don't want to work in that job, you don't want to be there. Imperial Beach has just been one great lottery ticket winning from the very beginning. And I tell the same story all the time. I feel like I won the lottery. Director Ponte hired me directly in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I got picked up at a Public Library Association conference. I actually argued I didn't want to interview, and they talked me into doing it, believe it or not. But he was headhunting. He was headhunting specifically for Imperial Beach. And for some reason, I fit the mode. So a side note, too, is that I got hired during the recession. I was one of the last 2 full-time people that was hired in San Diego County Library. And if you don't think I wasn't looking at every paycheck for a pink slip, you better think again, because I was. But my job was never in jeopardy, because Director Ponte and his staff found very clever ways to save money. We don't have a color printer in our library. We removed them all. That saved 3 part-time jobs right there. When I'm talking about creative budgeting so that people don't lose jobs, this is what they did. I get a lot of jokes about the old cash register that we have up front. Well, I know when I came in that we were talking about getting a brand new cash register system. I used one in Corona, couldn't understand. We didn't get it because we bought that, then that would have been a couple more jobs. So when I say they had creative budgeting, this man saved my job. I'm sure he saved my job several times because knowing me and my mouth, it's just, but I wanted to thank you so much for all that you've done. It's not just about that library across the way. It's about how you've inspired me in my career, how you inspired the town, my staff, everybody you touched, Director Ponte. Hello, Library of the Year. Hello, did I say that recently? Have I said that recently? Anyway, thank you so much. I wish you all the best in your new adventure.
I'm Nancy Stone, and I'm privileged to be the president of the Friends of the Imperial Beach Library, and also the corresponding secretary for the regional Friends. So I have an opportunity 4 times a year to interact with Mr. Aponte when he comes and gave us a briefing on what was going on with the library. And everything from how great the 2012 Library of the Year Award honor was for the county system. And that was at his helm. And we were just, I also was inspired. I work, as unfortunately most of us have to, but my passion is libraries. I grew up here. My first library card came from Imperial Beach. My mother worked here part-time as a librarian. And so when I came back to Imperial Beach to be with my mom, it was coming home again. And this is home for me. It always will be. It was during my Navy career. But having someone visionary like Jose Aponte has made such a difference. And it has been partly, was a very big part of us having that library. Because to be honest with you, there were times where I thought it wasn't going to happen in my lifetime. And it's here, and every time I look over there and see how much further we are down the line to have that becoming a reality, I am ever so grateful, because I know it was with the support of the mayor and the city council and the manager and so on, but also with Jose's vision and Supervisor Cox, who is also such a great supporter of Imperial Beach and libraries in general. So I am ever so grateful. You will always have a home in the heart of the Friends of the Library. And I know you're going to be on your cycling adventure after you retire, but I hope that you will be able to come back and share the celebration with us when we have the grand opening. So just congratulations on your retirement. We hate to lose you, but I know you've got a new chapter in your book that's got many more to come. So thank you.
Any comments from the council members? Okay. Thanks, Mr. Aponte, for coming, and thank you for all your service. And it was really great to have those events with you and have you share your passion for libraries and your story. And more importantly, as someone, again, immigrant parents who spent lots of time in libraries, more importantly, the IB library. It's really an important part of my life. And more importantly, I always traveled and with all these great, cool libraries in small cities and thought it'd be great to have a super cool little library in IB. Not that our library wasn't cool. And now we're going to get the best ever library in Imperial Beach that absolutely has an amazing design and is net zero. And anyway, it's going to be really great. It's going to be open really quickly by the end of the year, I think. So anyway, thank you so much. And I've given you a few copies of my books, so you have, because I know you have plenty of time to read on your retirement. So anyway, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming. Yep. Don't feel guilty about leaving. It's fine. All right, now we get to consent calendar. So just so I'm clear, I'm going to announce that we're going to entertain the motion, but we'll have a discussion of 2.6. Is that clear?
That's
Is that
correct.
right? Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's 2.5.
2.5.
We wanted to clarify that item 2.5 is actually funding from our CDBG program, which is a community development block grant.
Oh, okay.
And that will be for the design of the plans to build the new senior center. We are not using this year or next year's funds from the CDBG program for construction, but rather to plan the new senior citizen center. And we just want to make sure that we clarify that so that people don't think that construction of the new senior center is associated with the library. It will come down the road a piece.
So we're
Just wanna
voting for, put 2.5 as part of the consent calendar.
Correct.
Yeah,
And I
okay,
just wanted to
okay.
clarify this was for design and design rather than construction.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
I would like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar items 2.1 through 2.8. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. And now we go on to the public hearings portion of the evening. And the first is 4.1. That's public hearing and resolution number 2016-7711, confirming the diagram and assessment and providing for the levy of the annual assessment and the special maintenance district. I now declare the public hearing open, and City Manager Hall will give the report.
Mayor and Council, this is the annual public hearing that we have prior to assessing the district, the lighting district along Palm Avenue. It's Assessment District 67M, and that generates money to offset the cost of providing the lighting along Palm Avenue. Prior to assessing that district, we are required to hold a public hearing every year and give anyone in the district the opportunity to address you about that district. I do not believe that we have any speaker slips for that item, but we are required to hold a public hearing. So we are here to entertain any questions that we might have from the city council and then move forward from there.
Mr. Spriggs.
Thank you. This is just a brief question. Every year, this comes up for reapproval. And every year we have a bigger and bigger gap between what the assessment produces and what the actual cost of the provision of the lighting is. So I guess my question is, at some point, and should we consider something that's more sustainable, like solar lighting for that area? Aesthetics are not really a major issue for that corridor in the same way that they would be maybe for other parts of town. Seacoast Drive, where we talked about it many years ago. But I think it's something, you know, that's not an action now, but that we ought to look into. And maybe for a one-time capital cost, we can, over a number of years, balance this out a bit better. And maybe we can even, you know, make up for it within 4 or 5 years. May not be that much. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Spriggs, I think that's a really excellent suggestion. As you know, we can start the process right now. That is in the Caltrans right of way, so we'll have to work with them to do that. But I think it's a really good idea. We'll be looking at all of our lighting standards in the next couple of years. We met with SDG&E. They're trying to make going to LED much more attractive than it currently is, and so we're meeting with them to see. And it would make a lot of sense to do that in that right of way. I agree with you. So we'll make sure to keep that in mind.
Any other comments? That's actually a great idea. And more importantly, that's probably something we can do, you know, as part of a climate. I know we're talking a little later about climate action plan, and maybe even get grants when we apply for SANDAG grants for active transportation on how improving Highway 75. Maybe we can include that. So yeah, brilliant idea. Okay, so close the public hearing. And I would like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-7711, confirming the diagram and assessment, and providing for the levy of the annual assessment and the special maintenance district. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, and now we go into the reports section of the evening, and this is 5.1. Boy, we're moving through this agenda. Not yet, okay.
I'll slow us down here.
Activation, well, we're getting the important stuff now. Activation of city's vacant lot at intersection of 10th Street and Iris Avenue. And City Manager Hall will give the report.
Mayor and Council, first, let me ask you to excuse our Public Works Director tonight. He has quite an honor that he's doing for a friend tonight, so he was unable to attend. But he was at the meeting that was held with the residents out at 10th and Iris to talk about whether or not there's something we could do with that lot that would be more attractive than it is in its current condition. Similar to what we did on the lot down on Seacoast Drive on, what's that? Right across from the hotel. Is that Ebony? Date. That's right. It's on Date Street. And so he had an opportunity to meet with the residents, and he provided me with an update, and I believe it was in your packet, about the kinds of suggestions that were made. And I think that there were some reoccurring themes. So we wanted to talk to the city council and ask if it was appropriate for us to approach IB Beautiful again and see if we can get some additional funding for some future projects in that location. But what is pretty clear is that the residents in that area want something pretty low key. They would like it to be very attractive, but low key. That would be things like I saw here, an exercise circuit stop. We've talked about that. We're going to put one here in Veterans Park. Does it make sense to do something in the south part of the community? There's some, maybe a park for some small children with some playground equipment, some stuff like that, some beautification. Safety is a primary concern. They want to make sure that whatever we do there, we're encouraging safety in that location. Picnic benches, keeping kind of a green spot, an open space in the community. It was very clear they don't want to see that particular lot developed into a home or any other kind of a structure, but keep that as an open space in that part of the community. When we did council briefings this week, there was a council member who raised a very valid concern, and we want to address it tonight. This is a temporary use. This is a right-of-way that is access to the properties located south of Iris. If NOLF ever changes its use, or if they need that, it can also be used as an emergency entrance to that area. So we're not talking about vacating it. We're not talking about any permanent type structures. This is a temporary use because the roadway currently isn't being used as a roadway. There's also some access to some of the adjacent lots. I think we want to work with the adjacent lot owners to make sure that, some of the things that they've been doing, we're not trying to make life more difficult on the residents. In fact, we're trying to make it better. So we want to work through some of those details. This is a temporary use. We aren't talking about eliminating the right of way, but instead beautifying it and having an open space in a part of the community that really doesn't have any other public uses. So we just wanted to bring this to you. There are certainly a lot of other areas in the community. We're going to try to hit these one by one, try to do some of these areas in the community where we can not only beautify the community, but provide places that they can use and gather and do some of those things that you want to see in the community. So we are certainly open to suggestions, comments, concerns from the city council. And then if it's so directed by the mayor and city council, we'll start to look for some funding to improve some of that area.
IB Beautiful took over, or they gave us a big chunk of change. How much was that at Date Street?
10,000.
10,000. So I think tapping into them again might be a little much. So we have other players in our city, SDG&E, that our citizens pay quite a bit to, Cal-Am as well, EDCO.
Easy.
So I think if we tap into even just those three businesses, maybe each one could take a pocket park and, they could own it, so to say. And
So
that's just
sponsors for some of these.
yeah,
That's
sponsor,
good.
just a suggestion. That's all. Thanks.
Appreciate it. I just have two somewhat concerns. First off, I am in support of this whole deal, but I believe that we need to do our due diligence to ensure that this area stays a public right of way. If anybody's looked at, it doesn't show it here, but the hybrid of Google Maps actually shows a road going all the way to the fence. If we do whatever we do with this, I believe that we need to have a council policy that basically renews this every year. The council basically reminds the public that this is a public right of way, this is temporary, and council needs to deem this, set aside for a public right of way, but it needs to be deemed that basically there is no need for the public right of way at this moment. Second would be my knowledge of California state law might be a little outdated, but my understanding is whenever you use a public right of way for other than what it's deemed for, the public or the two property owners on either side, it would revert to their property. So I just want to make sure that we address all these issues before we take action on any of this. And I understand that this is just a report, and this is for a future meeting, basically. So.
Yeah, that's a really good comment. I was actually given a bit of a history lesson tonight, which helps with that very thing. Initially, this was a right of way, and the right of way was actually vacated and vacated to the residents. And then at a future date, the city actually purchased the property back. So it's actually owned by the city and not necessarily as a right of way, but I will double check that. It's very important. It seems like a nuance. It's not a nuance. It's very important. So I will make sure to double check that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mr. Spriggs?
And thank you for the resident who helped me tonight to understand the history of it.
And thanks for that question. I think that helps clarify the ownership, which was something I was going to ask about. The immediate neighbors, I don't know what the privacy issues are. I mean, the comments in the report are really heavily favor park type use and child recreation type use, community recreation type uses. That seems to be the predominant when you look through the list. But I'm just wondering what the immediate two residences, what those owners' concerns may be, and did they provide input in those discussions?
Yeah, I wasn't in attendance, but I did talk to Mr. Levine. Mr. Levine indicated that the resident on the left side or the west side of as you're looking at it at this picture, the left side, you can see the access for a recreational vehicle. And he just wants to make sure that he can maintain that. It's been used that way for some period of time. I think that was a primary concern. So that's something we'd want to take into consideration. And it was my understanding that the property owners on the east of the lot was that it not be lit, it not be for teenagers, but be something more for the children, something low key. And that's my understanding. I was not in attendance, so I hope that that's accurate. I think it is.
And then we have Erica Lowry would like to speak.
Sorry, I had to do a quick name change. Eric Lowry, I'm the treasurer of IB Beautiful. I reside at 740 Oneonta. And I just wanted to let the council know that IB Beautiful will be happy to help you beautify this in any way you want. I've seen the books. We can help again. Maybe not as big as that one pocket park, but we will be willing to help you. I will bring it to our board of directors as soon as we come up with some numbers.
Boy, we love good news up here. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. That's great. So all excellent reports. And Mr. Bilbray, I think that's a great comment, especially about as we do this more often, to have a council policy, especially to make sure the legalities are straight. So yeah, really, really good feedback on that. Because I think this is one of those smart things that cities are learning to do, where you can do these temporary permits and projects that don't have to cost a lot of money, and we can move quickly. Apparently, the council in 1999 or something had, if I read the staff report correctly, made this a priority. So thankfully, this council has moved on it. So, and thanks to all the residents who brought it to our attention, because I didn't know that this was actually something that had been promised to the residents, and so that's great. Yeah.
just comment on that. JD Santiago, myself, and Danny Martinez, along with other kids in the neighborhood, used to have BMX jumps in there. There's quite a bit of my blood in that dirt. So
Awesome. We'll put a little, maybe get little photos. You know, it'd be cool to have little photos of like neighborhood kids in that part of the project. So that's great. Yeah, I spent most of my childhood in dirt lots in my neighborhood. So
Good
yeah,
to see the hoodlums have grown up, right?
yeah,
That's what I'm
right.
saying.
And then I talked to, so one of the things the city staff have been doing is reaching out to a lot of the nonprofits that are engaged in these types of projects in South San Diego, including the arts group in National City that have a really strong partnership with the city of National City. Have done, I can't remember how many of these types of projects. And then Four Walls International that's doing work with the state park system down at Borderfield State Parks. And they've all taken, I just talked to Stephen Wright of Four Walls, who's actually an IB resident. They took a training done by the Pomegranate Center, an organization in Washington that actually does this nationally in partnership with the Arts Center. And so Stephen said they're actually writing grants so they can work in IB. And so I think they actually wrote a grant to STG&E. So I asked him to get him back in touch with you, Mr. Hall, just to see where they're at. And maybe this would be a project that, we can get a nonprofit engaged with in the city and also more importantly, the residents. I think the idea here is to save taxpayers money, get this done quickly and do it in a super cool way that actually the residents can participate in. It doesn't really cost us a lot of money. So this is great. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little I'm concerned about the trailer. You know, it's a 30+ foot trailer from, if you look at the dimensions of that, and I understand he wants access to be able to pull that out and park it. That's, I mean, how
Yeah,
do that?
that was the concern that was raised.
Right.
I don't know that we have a solution to it yet. I was just asked were there concerns raised. That was raised and we just need to explore and see if there's a solution to it. It's a good question.
I'm just, you follow it in with your finger. It's, I mean, we haven't made any huge promises or anything.
No.
But I think we definitely need to, honor, the person that lives there to the best of our ability.
Sure, you bet. Thank you.
Yes.
the gentleman wants to put in a speaker slip. Just to
Oh,
let you know.
okay.
Is he eligible to speak?
Mr. Pat, is a trailer that's that white thing right there, right? Is that right?
I think so.
Right. Right. And Mr. Griffin? Thank you, sir.
I live at 982 Hemlock, and my name is Mike Griffin. And I've been struggling with this little street end for years, trying to make it look. And I remember when it was all whatever, and happened to have the opportunity working for the city. I leveled it out, put a sprinkler system in, and tried to make it some kind of a area that was presentable. And even I want to say you as a hoodlum over there, but sometimes there was a large gathering over there, and some of the pre-skateboard hills and whatever. But as far as that trailer, I don't know. I think that's a personal problem. Somebody pulls into something that's in no way access out of there. Has got to think about himself. And I put a sprinkler system in, and after I left the city, that resident built a fence. He built it over some of the sprinkler system. So I think he's asking for too much if he wants to maintain access to that. The rest of us, if we don't have access, we don't have access. He should ask the Navy. Maybe they'll kind of hold the fence to the back. But I think it should be just well maintained, and some kind of beautification, trees, bushes, or whatever kind of things that just low level. And I don't know about playground equipment. I see a lot of strollers. My front window looks right at that park. And I'm a block away or half a block away. And I see what goes on in there most of the time. A lot of people walk their dog but I never been a problem because I've been down there. I've cut that grass since I retired about 25 times. Just tried to maintain it. And I never had any problems with dog droppings or anything like that. And there should be one there because there's people walk their dog around in there, but I've never seen a problem. But playground equipment drags a lot of people in that I don't. I think just a picnic bench or table, some benches, because I see a lot of women go out there with their babies and like they do down here at the beach area, they go and exercise, but it needs to be maintained so they have a decent place to do that. And small children go over there, but I don't know about playground equipment. It's just make it look nice. I think part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Thank you for all your service to IB. Any other questions or comments? Good. All right. So I think we're going to have to get some pictures of all of us and when our BMX days and the empty lots in IB. So and part of that actually be kind of cool, right? It would be fun. So anyway, great. And again, this really represents a sea change in how cities are operating and just trying to be a lot more nimble and doing things that don't cost a lot of money, that are partnerships, and we can do things quicker and identifying all these legal strategies to actually do these temporary type of uses. But again, lots of great ideas. So do I need to do a motion? I think we've just done some consensus and yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Great. And now we move on to the last item of the evening. And that is a very important one, very, very important for the future of our city. 5.2, resolution number 2016-7706, California Coastal Commission Local Coastal Plan Planning Grant Application, MF 1025, and Assistant City Manager Dush will give the report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The request before you this evening is a resolution to support the city and the staff to submit an application to the California Coastal Commission for a grant application to update our local coastal plan. This grant request that we would be putting into the California Coastal Commission would be in the amount of $300,000. The amount of money that it would cost the city would be in-kind services in terms of our staff time. So there would not be a direct sort of budget hit on this particular request. I would say that as we get into it, because the way that we're looking at applying for this grant application is trying to knit together a lot of our general plan components to, again, align what we're trying to do with sea level rise, as the mayor and members of the council spoke of earlier. This would be a continuation of that, but also then taking a look at the opportunities as it relates to our ecotourism, our other sorts of policies in the city to maintain our economic health, and also to have a large component on our public outreach that's customized for the city of Imperial Beach to address our needs, to take a look at that. So this is the first step in the process in terms of passing a resolution that would allow for us to submit an application to the California Coastal Commission for that grant. If we're successful in that, we would come back and get that authorization and go through the process. There would be a number of outreach meetings. In your application, or in the packet that you had initially received, there was a grant application, and then you got a last minute sort of agenda change. We went through that with help from a lot of different individuals. David Revel. There were also members that Jim Nakagawa knows who had worked on grants like this before, in order to sort of bolster that to make it a little more competitive. I'd be happy to go through any of those details if you'd like. I think some of the takeaways, again, is to take a look at updating our local coastal plan. This is an emphasis on sea level rise, which again would be a sort of a continuation of all the various grants that the city has had and was going to continue to work on, which is really sort of taking a look at the big picture of our city, and again, aligning that with our land use policies and plans. So with that, I would stop and stand ready for any questions you may have and request approval of this resolution.
And then do I have any speaker slips at all?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Spriggs. And thank you for that.
Thanks for the report, and I think this is a good chance for council members to ask any questions about this, because the one area of sensitivity that I know my colleagues and I have raised before is has to do with are we opening ourselves up to coastal commission dictates about our future planning efforts and what we can and can't do. And I think that is probably, for me anyway, that is probably the most overriding concern that I have about applying for this grant. That was a consideration when we were talking about this last grant that is now winding up, that was the basis for the workshop last week. We got that grant from the California Coastal Conservancy. We had a chance to get a similar grant from the Coastal Commission, but we elected to get the Coastal Conservancy grant because it did not require an LCP amendment as part of the grant process. We didn't think we were ready at that point. We didn't know enough, and we didn't want to commit ourselves to exactly this kind of thing, an LCP amendment at that point. But a lot has happened since then. We've had a couple major community workshops with good public participation. The community is much more aware of the issues, the flooding issues in general, the sea level rise issues, the El Nino kinds of issues that we face. And so my view is that we're ready to take this next step now, I would hope, as a community. Also, the current grant is done and the report will be finalized next month. And the question is, how do we continue our thinking and our work to come to some conclusions about where we're going as a community in facing these really important issues? And my understanding is that the Coastal Commission's grant cycle, that this is the last grant cycle for a couple years. And that if we didn't proceed on to apply for the grant during this grant cycle, the Coastal Commission would have to get additional grant funding from the state, and that would be probably 2 years hence, maybe at best. At least that's my understanding. Maybe others have a different understanding. I just spoke with the gentleman who works with Greg Cox, who's a Coastal Commission commissioner, who is in touch with the staff on these issues, and that's at least the latest that I got from him today on this, because that was to me a big question. Do we really have the option of waiting a year or two and having a gap in our work on these issues? And what would be the likelihood that we would be able to do that if we weren't ready to proceed this evening? And it doesn't look as though we do have the option to have this grant go forward, say next year. It's kind of like now or 2 years from now. So, and then it's not a sure thing. So those are my comments. I think you know, this is the time for us to push on and take this step for our community as community elected officials, to make sure we stay ahead of nature and even ahead of the Coastal Commission. We need to structure what we want and how we want to develop our community, how we want to protect our community in terms of sea level rise and these threats and the opportunities that also this kind of work presents us to do this kind of planning. We want to be in the driver's seat. And I think the way we do that is by bringing together the studies that you've talked about and the research that you've talked about, and coming up with a plan that our community supports, and then fighting to get that approved by the Coastal Commission, so that we don't have the uncertainty about what we can and can't do going forward. This is our opportunity to achieve that degree of certainty. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Triggs. Mr. Patton?
Sure. Thanks for the report. Can you explain the outreach meetings?
The outreach meetings, as initially anticipated, that we put in the application, would involve a couple with like sort of larger outreach meetings to the community, What they would look like, we haven't scoped that yet. We're waiting to find out, one, if we get the grant, and what the structure would look like. I think that there were some good insights that we could learn from our previous meetings as we've worked through sea level rise, because there's a lot of information that gets thrown out to the public. So the format of those meetings hasn't been certainly decided, but I think that we have some good information to go from it in terms of what could work a little bit better, and we can always get a little bit better as we go through and do public outreach, whether it's roundtable meetings, whether it is community surveys, various components like that. The other meetings would be with you as the city council / planning commission to receive some sort of policy direction as we work through those processes.
Yeah, I agree. The meetings that we had have been a good baseline to kind of learn from. And I think education on this is going to be key. I was sitting with a group of about 8 people today and explaining sea level rise, and they were just baffled at what it was and unfamiliar with it. So I think education, even in the public schools, about what sea level rise really is, as well as with our newsletters or whatnot. And I think getting the word out of what it is and possibly what it isn't, so we're not the sky isn't really falling completely, but it could be. And Coastal Commission, I agree with Mr. Spriggs. They seem to dictate quite a bit, and eventually they'll probably dictate everything. But who's to know? And if not, if we don't take this grant, what other grants would there be available, if any? Are there other options?
There may be. We haven't identified what other options that we would have to update our LCP. We can always use city funds. We could look for other grant opportunities from different groups, not unlike the ones that we had before. One of the opportunities that we have with this one, though, is that because the LCP does have to go in front of the Coastal Commission, and this is through the coastal staff, we would be working with them throughout that process. So I think some of the feedback that we received from Mayor Pro Tem Spriggs just a moment ago, in terms of sort of guiding and directing the ship in terms of what would work for our community, and that structure as outlined in the grant application is pretty clear in terms of things that we would be looking for, tools that we currently have that we'd like to retain. Those are elements that we understand would come up in terms of how you would address development applications that would come forward in light of this. So I think we're aware of that. And again, I think there's lots of different approaches that you could take.
Yeah, and our city has a good reputation of guiding and directing with Coastal Commission. I think we'll do a good job with this. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Patton. Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve and Chris, I'm sure, and Jim, you all had a hand in this.
Jim had a big hand in
I-
it. He had like
exactly.
2 hands and his head all at the same time. It was just
I see his fingerprints all over it.
all over it.
We have relied on grants in this community to get us where we are. And Mr. Spriggs brought up a good point with the Coastal Commission. And when I had a discussion about this with our city manager, it came to both of us that we can't allow the Coastal Commission to pigeonhole us into what might work in another coastal community along the coastline of California. We're very different. We're very unique. We're one of few communities that have the assets and challenges that we do. So that's one of the things that scares me with writing the grant and making sure that they're totally aware of that. And I'm sure that the 3 of you will work through that with the Coastal Commission. And sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. But I would encourage us to move forward with this. Gentlemen, colleagues, this is just the grant application. We're not, nothing is going to be set in stone tonight. I did want to comment on our workshop last week. It was very intense. It was very much of an overload, I think, for the majority of the people there. And Andy and I had talked about kind of restructuring the workshops and the meetings so that they're almost, one night. We talk about this topic and not all of the topics that are involved with sea level rise. So that would be my only suggestion moving forward with our meetings and our outreach. And I saw on one of the pages that there were going to be 2 public hearings. I hope that there are certainly many more public workshops on this. Mr. Patton is right. The majority of the community hears the words but don't understand the words and all what's involved in it. So that would be my only caution to us moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, so those are excellent points. I love the term ahead of the Coast Commission. I think all the feedback was great, and I thought the same thing after that meeting. I think we were all a little floored. I think it was more than intense. It was like, sort of like being in a race, you know, like going 100 miles an hour and then stopping and going, okay, what did I just see? So and that was good for me to think about this whole process too. And definitely two meetings aren't even close to being enough. But more importantly, this grant isn't even close to being enough. We're going to have to aggressively go out and work with our partners like the Climate Collaborative and other nonprofits or government agencies and say Imperial Beach is championing this as a national leader. And so we have the opportunity to define how we do this in a really participatory way for our blue collar community that, you know, essentially surrounded by three sides of water. We've given up the development rights on around our city. Now you have to help us figure out how we're going to deal with it. So I think the public participation element is really critical because you're right, 2 is not enough. And we can, the fact is the Coast Commission, we're pioneering this for everyone. It's not like a lot of cities are doing this. In fact, I think Carlsbad's doing this and Encinitas, but they're doing the LCP part first and they're not doing the planning part like we did, all the analysis. So we're in a good phase. And I think the more that we can sell this to foundations and agencies and augment those funding to have someone who's really working on the participation point would be really great. And then in terms of the Coast Commission, I think, you know, I work professionally in this area. And for those of us who do conservation, we want to get the Coast Commission out of the micromanaging cities business. And I've talked to Greg Cox about this and other organizations in that we all get it that having the Coast Commission micromanaging a garage addition on the beach is a waste of time. And so, but what I think is that ultimately by doing this, we help get the Coast Commission staff off our back because we're going to be defining how to do it. And the more we do this, we give them less reason to interfere with Imperial Beach and then focus on places like Malibu where they can't do anything because they don't have an LCP. So the movement statewide is to really focus on getting cities LCPs. There are 35 jurisdictions without local coastal plans at all. So they're the people that absorb all the time and really get the Coast Commission focused on doing this type of stuff and then just leaving cities alone so they can go about their business. I think that's what we're seeing. So anyway, this is a great process, but again, yeah, I think I felt the same way that we definitely need to do a lot more education. I think there's some organizations out there that are probably be willing to help, that have helped us on this process so far. And then finally, at the end of the day, we're surrounded by the Navy, we're surrounded by Fish and Wildlife Service, by NOAA, state parks, and we can't do this alone. And we're going to have to sit down at the table with these folks and really identify how we're going to work on this together because it's one, and with Coronado as well. So anyway, and San Diego and Chula Vista National City and the port in Mexico. So anyway, so really good feedback. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you touched on I think some really good points. Working with the Navy is certainly, I think, something that would be a great opportunity and a great challenge. They are stakeholders in this as well. I mean, we share the same landmass on the eastern side of the estuary with the Navy, and I cannot imagine that what we are thinking about doing regarding sea level rise as it may affect that part of our community isn't also going to affect NOLF. And there's resources there that we may be able to tap into. So the more we can collaborate with the Navy, I think early on, the more when it comes time to actual looking at infrastructure changes, maybe there's a partnership that could be very beneficial for both parties and especially for little old Imperial Beach. The other point that all of you guys have mentioned here is public education and public input and opportunities for questions and learning, etc. And I think we should, we don't need to have huge formal sessions all the time on this, but through the Tidelands Advisory Committee, there may be some less formal opportunities through the public notice process and everything, to have some of this community education. We could actually ask the Tidelands Advisory Committee to do a little bit more by way of public education, hearings, presentations, etc., so that we don't have to have it all in terms of council workshops. And I think that would also give TAC an opportunity to become a lot more involved and educated themselves on some of the things that we're looking at. They were at the last workshop last week, and I think it would be possibly a good way to engage them more in this process and get their help. So that's
great.
another thought.
That's great feedback. Great. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-7706, California Coastal Commission Local Coastal Plan Planning Grant Application. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Yeah.
Before you adjourn the meeting, first, if I remember right, Mr. Spriggs, you have a birthday coming up on Sunday? Want to wish you a happy birthday, sir. Second, I just want to go on record and say that anything that comes before us for parks for final approval needs to go through the Parks and Rec Commission. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.